Hi everybody, welcome back. This is quilting part 4 today, and we are finally going to start putting these blocks together. It is going to be super cute. So last time you guys remember that we had to sew the 3 green squares and the 1 yellow square onto each corner of our block. Then we trimmed off the excess, we pressed it open, and then we had what turns out to be a quarter of one of our larger blocks that'll actually form the top. So for today's video, we're actually going to put those 4 pieces together, show you how they come together, and then we're actually going to start assembling this quilt top too. It's really exciting. Okay, so let's head over to the sewing machine and let's take a look. Okay, so here we are back at my sewing machine, and as you can see, I have the pieces that we sewed last time, all pressed out. All of the seam allowances are pressed wide open. So now we're actually going to try sewing these things together. So just like last time, I have my little piece of scrap fabric, okay? Sorry, I'm pulling out some of those extra threads there. So we'll use the same cheat as we did to actually attach these things, because that'll make our stitching cleaner. Once again, we don't want to start stitching, back it up, and then continue like we would for a garment or something similar, because we don't need that extra thread bulk. So we'll just use that piece of scrap fabric there to get us started. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up these 2 yellow corners, okay? So I'm doing this right sides together, which means that this stuff, this really pretty line that we have going on right here, is on the inside. If you see it on the outside, that's an issue. I'm also doing my best to kind of line up my stitching. If your edges aren't perfectly straight, that's a-okay. Mine definitely are not, and we are learning together, so that's fine. So once you have this kind of lined up as much as possible, we are going to continue doing the same exact seam allowance as we have been for all of our pieces so far, and that's 1/4 inch, okay? So once you have it lined up, we can go ahead and sew. I have a supervisor cat here too. So, okay. So we have this little piece right over here. Thank you, Opal, for your valuable input. Okay. So once we actually open this up, we can see half a flower, right? So, thank you, Opal. Yes. So, sorry, she is very needy today. Goodness. So that may not look like anything just yet, but we're going to do the same thing to the other 2 pieces that we already have cut out. Thank you again for your valuable input, Opal. Oh my goodness. Okay. So here, I'll set this aside over here. I'll do the same thing. I mean, I'm not asking you to have a cat butt in your face while you're learning. If anything, it might make it easier to not have, but that's just how we roll around in our house, okay? So yeah, same thing. We're lining up our 2 pieces in the same way, okay? Edges as neat as you can get them. We'll use that same piece of scrap fabric that I mentioned earlier to get our pieces all lined up. All right, I actually have another piece of scrap because it looks like my cat is sitting on my old one. That's fine. Oh, there she goes. She needs to inspect it one more time. Okay. I have to bribe her with pets. Thank you, Opal. Okay. So we have everything theoretically lined up, minus, the cat. And we can go ahead and sew this other set here. So because my cat, of course, is blocking off the side seam ripper, I will use my manual one, that's okay, to get these threads cut. All right, and we'll use it again to cut off that starting scrap. And then boom, we have the other half of our flower. So Again, though, just like we did when we were actually creating these different pieces, thank you, Opal, we are going to take these over to the ironing board and press them first. And then we can complete our final step of actually sewing them together to create our flower block. So let's head over to the ironing board. Okay, so we're over here at the ironing board and we have our two pieces. So if I lay them out for you, you can actually see our shape a little bit right here. Oh man, that's gonna be so pretty. So before we get to the fun part though of actually putting these things together, we are going to press our seams out of the way. Because once again, fresh sewed, it's not as flat as we need it to be. There's no trimming like last time, but we do still need to make sure that these things are out of the way. So our book, remember, Sweet Celebrations, compiled by Lissa Alexander, specifies that we want to press our seams so that they are opposite of each other here. So they're gonna end up looking kind of like this, okay? So if you're doing a bunch of these blocks at once, the way that I found that's best to do this is to have them face the same direction, okay? So the easiest visual marker here is to have your yellow kind of corners here facing down. So we'll line them up. And we have our iron that's already hot. Remember, with steam, because we need to bully the cotton into relaxing for us into its new shape. Okay. So we have that lovely seam pressed. Now, you might think that we have to alternate, but if we have our blocks oriented in the same direction, you know, yellow on the bottom, we're actually going to press it in the same exact direction right here. Getting in a little bit of extra pressing in some of these areas that aren't as flat as I need them to be. So you might be curious as to how this actually works, but of course, if you flip it the way we need it to be, boom, you have those seams perfectly matched up, and now they're out of each other's way, and that's what we're going for. So now that we have these seams pressed, we're going to head back over to the sewing machine one more time to put this block together. Okay, so we're over here back at the sewing machine, and this is sort of the last step in actually assembling our blocks so that they are ready to assemble into a quilt top. So one last time, we have our scrap piece of fabric right here, and this time we're basically going to do the same thing as we have been doing. We're going to line up these pieces, and your goal is to try and get them as even as possible. Once again, if it's not quite as even as we would like, that's okay. You can see there's a little bit of variation here, that's fine. And then the most important part is going to be making sure that these middle seams are lined up, okay? So you can see that means it's a little uneven on the edge. Middle seams is where it's at, okay? You're gonna find that it looks super duper neat if you line those up. We'll worry about the edges later. Just like last time, 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here we go. So a quick pause here to show you, okay, our seam, even though we pressed it, is trying to go the same way as here, which creates unwanted bulk. Needle is still in the fabric. Lift up the foot, scoot it under there, and then put that bad boy back down. Okay, we continue. Okay, one more time. Cutting off this scrap. And ta-da! Oh, it's so cute. Oh, I love these blocks. They're so cute. Okay, so all of that aside, you can see there's a little bit of unevenness, but like I said, we're learning. That's okay. Also, you know, speaking as somebody's child, my mom is going to love this no matter what, right? You should love this no matter what happens to. So, the very last thing that we have to do, of course, is to press the seam open. I trust that you know what I mean, so I won't show you this part. But once again, we're going to press this open. So unlike these guys that got pressed to the side, we'll press that flat open like this, okay? With the iron, with full steam, etc., etc. Okay, so as you saw, we were able to finally put our pieces together to make our actual quilt blocks. Now, unfortunately, we're out of time for today, so next video, I'm actually going to show you how these blocks come together in rows to form the top of the quilt. So, thank you very much once again for joining me. Please don't forget to visit dclibrary.org/library at home for tons of other stuff like ebooks, audiobooks, games, puzzles, and also select library locations are open as well. So yeah, I will see you guys next time. Thanks as always for sticking with me.